So with that, I wanted to kick off our very high energy panel discussion. We've got some great folks involved here, and I want to make sure we're getting them all in turned on. Is everybody there? Great. Knowing we have just a little bit of time, I'm going to jump in and let everyone introduce themselves. Why don't we start with Ying, please?
Hi, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I'm Ying Zhao. I'm a director for cloud supply chain at Servicenow. I'm at Servicenow for 8 years and located at Seattle. So we are procuring all the hardware and software services needed for our cloud environment. But besides the supply chain operations, my true passion and achievement is supply chain digitalization, automated supply chain, and asset management, etc. So here I heard a lot of conversation regarding this, and then to share like my passion of the economic empowerment, I would like to start with one of my personal stories. So I grew up in northern China, small village, and then my family at that time wasn't financially very good, like poor. And then when I was in middle school, my family faced a decision to send me to the training school, and then 4 years later get a job, or support me to high school. Potentially, I could get in college, have the higher education. As the top student, my passion is really go to high school and go to college. But my mom is a stay-at-home mom, and then she told me that you have to go to training school because we cannot support you financially. So I was disappointed, but I take the direction. Thankfully, last moment, my dad told me they changed their mind, decided to take on the additional financial burden and support me. And then later I heard a story that my mom and dad had a private conversation that my mom said, if she can go to college, I'm willing to sell the house to support her. That's without my knowing that. But so that small thing in my early age really made me believe the economic independence and economic empowerment is so crucial to women, so important. And then that kind of drive me throughout my life.
Awesome.
Also, I hope this will be, like, I know it's important for every woman. I hope every woman has the empowerment to make their decisions and support their children. So I really hope I can do something to contribute to this.
Awesome. Thank you, Yang. Thank you for sharing that story with us. Kristen, why don't we have you introduce yourself next?
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you so much for this honor to be here today. So hi, yes, Kristen Marquez. I am the Production Test and Launch Engineering Director for the Boeing Company. So I've been in my role for about 10 months now, currently in Kennedy Space Center, Florida. Most of my career I've spent in production engineering up in Boeing commercial airplanes. So just moved here from Washington State. And really a lot of what I do today is related to production system architecture and health. It's really linking the build of a product with the design, with our supply chain, with all of the health metrics that really allows us to build effectively, safely, and of course with high quality. So super happy to be here today.
Great. Thanks, Kristen. And Lily, go ahead.
Sure. I just want to echo to Yin. I was also a very lucky woman, lucky girl that my parents supported me financially fully for my study abroad, both my undergrad and grad. So absolutely want to be the one for the next generation. So this is Lily. I'm currently living in New York City and have been for quite many years. And I have experience in fintech, investing, and consulting. Currently, I'm leading a team within City Private Bank where I build framework and actually build a team from scratch with, at the beginning, cautious with diversity and inclusion. And the responsibility is basically to bring in emerging tech, transform the business models, and launch innovation products and build a community from ideation all the way to production. I also was lucky enough to have exposure to many powerful female founders and the rising female investor community. Throughout my career, I'm often the only lady in the meeting room, and I know there should be more. And I do not believe in any set barriers or limits that, has anything labeled with gender. So I am a female leader myself, and I'm very interested in, advocating women's leadership, wealth, wellness, and women's representation, and having their talents being supported. So happy to be here.
Awesome. Thanks, Lily. And Gina J.
I know we're going to have to go by Gina F and Gina J throughout this, I think. Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. I'm Gina Jorgensen. I'm currently working at Google. Been there probably, I think I just experienced my 3-month anniversary. I've been in tech about 20 years. Those 20 years were all at Microsoft, with the exception of the last 3 months. Wonderful, wonderful place to sort of grow up in technology. When I started, I honestly didn't know the difference between an Intel chip and a potato chip. And coming in out of grad school, I went through the whole interview process, and I basically got the interview at Microsoft because I had known the founder of Windows NT back at the time, who was this famous Microsoft person, and I knew them socially. And I just said, he said, I really think you should go to work at Microsoft. And I said, oh, I don't think so. I don't know what value I would bring to Microsoft. And he laid out all of these things that I didn't think a tech company would value. He said, you're tenacious, you're smart, and you're curious. He's like, that's all that matters. He goes, you don't need to know anything about technology. And that was a real pivotal moment for me, because I realized at that point, I was the one setting limitations on myself that didn't need to be there. And in the world of tech, the thing that's so beautiful about it is there's so many different types of opportunities where you can become more technical over time, which certainly is happened for me and wonderfully. I had a bunch of great technical mentors, but just opening your eyes up to everything in technology that's available to you, if you have the curiosity to go figure it out. And so I think that was again a really pivotal moment for me, that I was the one limiting myself coming into technology. So I said yes to Microsoft and was there for a good long time, 2 decades, and then now I'm over at Google in Google Cloud.
Awesome. Awesome story, Gina. And for the whole panel, thank you so much for sharing. And I didn't spend a second on myself. Real fast, I'm Gina Frederick Congley, Managing Director at Accenture. Been involved with Women in Cloud for over 1.5 years now. Amazing group of women. Every conversation I have, I'm so delighted and impressed with the level of talent and the group we've pulled together today. So thanks everybody for joining us. And with that, we'll dive into our panel discussion. We're going to break it up into a couple of key questions here. And the first question will go out to Lily and Gina. As we think about the environment and really the crisis that we're starting to see, what's your take on it globally, and what's your take on the crisis globally and its impact globally and how you're seeing it? Lily, why don't you go first?
Sure. I know the crisis has changed all our lives in many perspectives. And if you're talking about professional industries, we know structure.
Go ahead, Lily.
Sure. And we know that structural reforms are being accelerated given the pandemic, and a lot of hidden problems that, including the understatement of females' powers, the vulnerability of females, are brought to the table and actually being widely discussed, given the chance that everybody have more time, I believe, and more attention, more awareness to this topic. Today, I probably just want to bring up or mention one angle of that is, among them all, among all the changes, I do see a lot of powerful women founders are being understated, underfunded compared to their male competitors. And, we see that more visible during pandemic. And recapping all the stats that actually being mentioned in the fireside chat or Tritra was talking about at the beginning, in 2020, we only have 2% roughly of the VC funding goes to the women-led startups, right? Yet we actually know there are a lot of tremendous amount of wonderful female founders. They generate higher returns in their companies. They bring in more meaningful solutions and more innovative approach to solve world problems. And on the flip side, I also see women are lagging behind investing themselves. And, that could be, it could be explained by lacking the assets. It could be explained by lacking the awareness, lacking the knowledge. But when shocks like crisis or pandemic happen, challenge happen in their regular workforce, they do not have any cushion, right? They don't have another capital streams. They don't have other places that they have accumulated over the long term. And also from my culture, we have an ancient saying suggests that opportunities arise in crisis. So if I have to summarize, then I would take crisis and its impact as an opportunity to bridge the gap by lifting and cultivating our women investors, by aligning our male investors who could actually strongly back our strong female founders going forward.
Awesome. No, very insightful too, and additional good data for us to be thinking about. Thanks, Lily. And Gina, what are you seeing on the global scale?
Well, let me start by saying I'm a mom. And as a mom, one of the things that was stunning to me was it's not just a set of job losses for a set of types of roles that women play in the economy, but there was also women having to opt out, right? Great jobs having to take a step back, having to sidestep in their careers that they were on a great trajectory, having to step back and start to care for their children and homeschool, which we all know. I think I've talked to lots of different moms, and homeschooling does not bring out the best side of all of us. I will state that myself very clearly. But it's also caused me to reprioritize things, right? What's important to me? What's the job atmosphere that I need to thrive and be a great mom, but also be a great contributor in tech? And I really had to do a lot of soul searching, as I think many women around the world did. And to say that this crisis, impacted people in different ways is such an incredible understatement, right? The thing I would love everybody on the call to remember is the added stress of what all of these women are going through, and then the added stress of being a mom and caring for your family, and being the one typically to take care of the child when they're homeschooling and whatnot, and just take care of everybody's mental health. There is something to remember, right? That stress adds a lot of self-talk, right? And it may not be the best self-talk. And what I always try to remember, and it was advice somebody gave me, it was the best advice actually somebody ever gave me, which was, what if? What if you walked into the room and you believed that everybody was there to help you? What if you walked into a room of investors and you believed all of these people want to invest in me because my idea is great, I'm buttoned up, and I know my business? And this notion of how the added stress shrinks your identity sometimes, and the added stress changes and morphs how you're feeling and presenting yourself. And we all have very stressful times and lots of hardships. But what does the resilience look like from that, right? And how do you sort of change your mentality from, I'm not worthy enough, I might not be as buttoned up, or these people actually don't want to invest in me. If you walked in and said, these people actually want to help me. And the thing that was really interesting about that for me and my learning is I was like, all right, I'm going to walk into these business reviews and in these meetings, and I'm going to believe anybody in this room wants to help me. And you know what? They did. And that was unbelievable. And again, it goes back to that self-limiting piece of this, right? I would venture that more people actually want to help when you can ask for it. But you have to be able to ask for help. And it's a really tough thing for women, and it's a really tough thing for me. But when I was able to ask for it, and I was able to show up in a way that was feminine in terms of the ability to ask for help, and just was authentically there who I was, everybody wanted to help. And it was such a beautiful surprise in so many ways. And again, I think that's something I want everyone to remember in the crisis, where you're just feeling low and you're holding everybody else up. The way you can sort of start to change and transform some of that negative energy is to say, what if I walked into this room and everyone wants to help me? Yeah, say it over and over. And it's true. There are going to be people who may not want to, but the vast majority of people, men and women, I will say that both, want to help you.
Yeah, no, Gina, I think that's so spot on. And from the aspect of receiving it, but also the aspect of giving it, right? As a leader in Accenture, I now, in the meetings, really spend the time up front to say, how can we help you? And really draw that help out. So there's the one, the proactive, asking for the help. And then there's the two, the reactive, as for the leaders on this call, to be seeking out how you can help people and let them know it's okay to be asking for that help and you're here to help them. I think that's super, super important and very, very telling is where we are now post-COVID, but how we want to be going forward too, and just a more supportive culture. So great points, I think. Okay, we'll shift to the next question. And the next question are, what are some of the philosophies adopted by your company to improve the situation we're in right now? So we start at the global level, and now let's talk maybe a little bit more specifically at your company level. Ying, do you want to go first with that one?
Yeah, so maybe I'll start with some basic policies since COVID started at our company. So first, our leaders really make awareness that there's increased responsibility and burdens on all the women that are within the company. And then we have work from home for completely a year. And then we have flexibility to allow employees stay at home until September this year. The other thing we have done is the work location flexibility. So if employee has the needs to take care of family in different location, we made that available, possible for the employees. I definitely have people from my team working in different locations for a few months. I fully support that. And then there's other thing is if we made it available for the employees to bring up the conversation with the leadership, and then really a lot of information that kind of training our managers lead with empathy to the employees. The other thing, like because I'm a supply chain professional, so like I see that we are having the supplier diversity on women lead vendors. I would say like we are started, but we are trying to mature this and trying to have women lead vendors into our selection and giving chance to the vendors, etc. So definitely we are continue marching on this direction. And
nice. Oh, that's great. And Kristen, and I love introducing Kristen because you literally get to say she is a rocket scientist. So when you say it's not rocket science, you get to go, she actually is, and she is doing that. So I'm in awe.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Kristen. What do you
I know, I get to say it now too. Yeah, so and I'll talk a little bit more about my role in production engineering, launch engineering within Boeing. So certainly we are kind of line side, product side, because we do still build, right? And we can't do that virtually. But to build a little bit on, there was a really strict mindset, just before COVID, where working virtual was really frowned upon, right? Even for every other Friday, it was kind of like, oh, wow, you're going to work from home, right? Had nothing really to do, I don't think, with the work that you got done. It was just a frowned upon culture, right? With COVID, it really challenged our mindset because, I still remember the day where we kind of got sent home, and it was like, it was a shock, I think, to many. And so what that did, though, and I like, Lily, your comment of kind of opportunity is born out of crisis, is then it just really pushed the envelope on innovating our technologies. So how do we support production, our mechanics, do some more testing that is virtual, using augmented reality, and kind of all these notions that maybe some people had that we were able to drive forward. So a lot of change there. Specifically, though, I think when it comes to women in the workplace, because my field, just like many of you, I am, the only woman in the room quite often, minority, right? We've made a lot of changes, but I think also the higher that you go, the org chart changes as well, and we see less and less diversity. And so again, some of those mindsets were even more challenging, I think, in the past year. And so, my team in particular, and we're spread across, the United States and even, across the globe. But really setting a good example myself, knowing, having the empathy. I'm also a mother. And I agree, yes, homeschooling, that was tough. That was real tough. Luckily, now in Florida, the kids do get to go to school, but, that's a lot of stress in addition to the, I grew up in a home where, I was used to seeing my mom doing the cooking, doing the cleaning. And even though my plate is completely full, I still feel compelled to do a lot of that. And I know a lot of people, a lot of women in my workplace have that same notion. And so I message weekly, if not daily, to some of my, direct team of just, you got to be able to have your boundaries, right? One of my mentors way back when, she told me, she's like, everyone's got boundaries. You have to set them. And tell a family member, so it gives you a little bit more accountability. And it's okay to be able to say no or, ask for help in order to make sure that you don't go past those. Because especially now, just the mental health, it's very taxing, even personally, right? There's been quite the toll. And so I've got to check myself, stay back, reflect and see, hey, what is it, that I'm doing? And I'll fully be transparent, even events like this, I've got to watch, and say, okay, how many things can I do? Right. What makes sense? But I also truly believe in advocating and giving that support to as many people as I can. Awesome. Because I think we all need that support network.
Yeah, no, that's great. And some really good little nuggets to hold on there too, in terms of it's okay to say no. And my favorite is always, you must put your own mask on before assisting others in life and on an airplane.
Yep.
So let's go around the room. I think Kristen and Gina both gave some good insights from their own perspectives. Why don't we go around and ask each of you, what do you think at a personal level, what are you trying to do, or what coaching would you give to our audience in terms of how to help solve the crisis at a personal level? Ying, why don't we start with you?
So some of the personal side, like work-wise, then I'm trying to engage in more of the recruiting activities, events, and I'm the firm believer that we should change our interview panel. So when we interview for tech roles, we should have the women represent, like as a recruiter, interview the candidates, not like having candidates go through an interview loop and seeing all male and same background. That's just not going to be helpful for us to move forward. So definitely, like, those are the efforts I'm in and try to make the change. And besides that, I have some personal advice just for women themselves as a mom as well. So first is when the crisis like this happen, or even in a normal circumstance, we are facing that what is our top value and top priority in terms of between work and take care of family. If you believe that at this moment, taking care of family is the high priority for you, that reflects your true value, then be confident about your decision. So you should be proud of yourself that making that powerful decisions, like I'm going to pause or going to slow down my career progress or do whatever, taking care of my family first. That's very powerful decision. Be confident about yourself. The second thing is, if you are making that decision, advice is to set a time target. I will do this deviation for 6 months, a year, or whatever. Set that target will help you to navigate back. And the other thing is set a goal. Like I do this because of I want to achieve this. And this goal setting, even you're deviating from your career, that help you build the confidence. Like I'm confident about myself. I achieved this. And then the last thing I would say is there is often an economic evaluation within the family who will be left workforce, and then usually the people that earn less. but don't be fooled by that evaluation. It's a short-term thing, and we should look at this with growth mindset. Everyone started their career like with low income, but the only way you change the equation is you are in the workforce. Over the time, your income will go up 3 times, 5 times. Equation will tell you different decisions. And that's my advice.
Come on off mute. Sorry, no, great insights, Ying. Really actionable nuggets there. Thank you. Kristen, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'll kind of keep mine brief. And, really it comes back to confidence, what Ying really talked about. And one thing that I kind of use personally as a mantra all the time, in meeting rooms is, I know what I know, right? And you have to believe yourself, right? You don't know everything. Nobody does. We can't be comparing ourselves to the person next to us. But, you got to understand that you've come a long way, whatever that may have been, right? Your all of your experiences, that's what makes you you. Be proud of that. And don't be afraid to share that. And just, I literally tell myself that all the time. And I know what I'm talking about, right? And I try not to say things that I don't, right? So just be confident that you do have those experiences and keep going forward.
No, that's great. Confidence is huge. Such a good point. Lily, what are your thoughts?
Sure. I guess besides what institutions can do for leadership, recruiting, or funding, and every single one of us, as long as we're in such role, we can influence that way. I would say at the personal level for any female women in any age, I think there are a couple slogan or statements that I keep telling myself is, first of all, is at the role you want to be viewed, right? If you want to be viewed as a leader, you want to be viewed as an expert, you want to be viewed as a teammate, then add the way. You don't have to have the title, you don't have to have the role, but the moment you add that, then people will give you image like that and you will be positioned into that place. And the second thing I would say is women tend to be very harsh on ourselves. We always want to be a better grade, a better mom, a better someone, a better teammate. Forget about that. Forget about not being good enough. Forget about I'm not ready. And just, stand for yourself and just do it. Do it when you want to do it. Don't wait. And I guess lastly is kind of echoing to what Kristen was saying that about like all the times that we have to spend in various things we have on play, and we all tend to take on many responsibilities. So I want to remind everyone to, besides managing your time, manage your energy, because sometimes we can be capable of squeezing everything on our time schedule, but our energy will drain, and that's not really healthy for our mental. It's not really sustainable, and going forward, it's not going to lead us to anywhere. So, manage your energy and embrace yourself, meaning like give yourself a hug. Don't push yourself too hard.
Oh, Lily, that's great. Manage your time and energy. And I don't know if you could see, but everyone's heads were totally nodding on that one because it's so true. It's not just about time, it's about energy.
Sure.
And being okay. Back to Kristen's earlier point about saying no. Yep, taking self-care. And Gina, let's hear your thoughts.
2 things for me. One is balance is complete shit. So if anybody, excuse my language, but if anybody tells you you need to balance or figure out how to balance, don't try to figure out how to balance anything. It all comes down to, are you focused on the thing that's happening in the moment? Right now, I have 3 kids who are supposed to be homeschooling. I don't know if they're online or not. I am here with you guys in this meeting right now, focused on that. That is where my attention is. And when I try to share my attention across too many things and I start to multitask, I fall really short because I don't absorb what's happening in that moment. And then I get back to this point that Lily was making, which is this talk in my head about, oh, I'm not good enough, or I'm not this, or I'm not doing enough. I'm not a good mom. I'm not a good worker, not a good friend. Just be in the moment with the thing that you're in the moment with. Make that commitment, right? Your kids are going to be fine. Your work is going to be fine. And just really getting back to this notion of being present and single tasking. Multitasking is should be the bane of everyone's existence. And I think what you'll find when you start focusing on one thing and single tasking, you will catch much more context from that moment, from what's happening, and you will actually create more time. It sounds crazy, but I challenge you guys all to take a week and do that. Give yourself a week where laptop's down, you're focused on the meeting, you're not multitasking. It changed my life forever. And I started doing that. It was like 8 years ago that he gave me that challenge. She's like, 1 week, do exactly what I tell you to do for 1 week. And I thought she was crazy, and she completely changed the way I show up in the world, right? The second thing that I think is really important now, especially during crisis like this and any time in your life, is trusting your intuition versus your instinct. Instinct is how you viscerally respond to somebody, right? How you viscerally respond to anything happening around you. And it's usually triggered by past experiences, usually not the good ones, right? So somebody says something to you and you just have a reaction, rather than taking a breath and going, okay, just a moment, and actually listening to what your intuition tells you about this. Maybe Kristen had a bad day this morning and she's just cranky, but it has nothing to do with me. 99% of the time, stuff doesn't have to do with you when somebody's reacting to you. And you have to remember that. And so for the big thing for me is just, it's the difference between taking a breath and not taking a breath when something happens. Because then I can go for a minute and go, oh, actually, my instinct says I actually want to fight right now. But my intuition says this person might have had a bad day. They might have had a flat tire this morning. They might have a sick family member. And that's so important, especially when times of heightened stress. You go back to just acting on instinct, which is all your visceral responses to things. And that doesn't have the best outcome for others. And so remembering the only thing you get to control in this is your own responses to things. When you can take a breath, take a sip of water, it changes the whole dynamic of your day. It really does. And that was a big learning. And I learned it a lot of different times, and I'm still learning it, but it makes all the difference in how you show up.
No, it's great. Great, Gina. Thank you. I love that. Intuition, not instinct. And thank you so much to this panel. I think we, in a very short period of time, had some really insightful points brought up to folks at all points of your career, and how we're really all handling the crazy world of COVID. And hopefully everyone's starting to get vaccines and we'll all get to be able to be together in person soon. But I think, my key takeaway is all about that self-care. And as we look to move forward, step one is make sure you're taking care of yourself, both personally and professionally, and in the meetings and at home, so you can present your best self and be focused and not trying to multitask. Because I do meditation, and it's like someone said it's about 1,000 monkeys all on crack in your head at the same time, trying to get you to go on. And that's kind of how most of us go throughout our days, I think. So taking the time to pause and be intentional with our energy and time and effort, I think is so true. Wow, just such a good discussion in a very short period of time. So thank you, panel. I so appreciate having the chance to spend time with you. And thank you for the audience with all the great comments and feedback popping up in the window. I encourage everyone to kind of scroll through there and look at some of the great insights and impactful statements that were shared. So with that, I think I'm handing it back over to either Chaitra or Noelle to go forward. But thank you so much for this panel and everyone for spending this time with us. I look forward to getting to spend some more time with you all in person one day real soon. Giovanna, am I handing it back to you?
You are. Thank you so
great.
much, Gina. What an amazing panel. Thank you so much to all the panelists and for your incredible contributions. Again, Gina, you are an amazing lead, and Ying, Lily, Kristen, Gina, amazing, incredible panel. And so to summarize, yes, a high five. We covered so much. So to summarize some of the key highlights, right? We talked about the global crisis and how that has accelerated reforms in certain areas, right? Despite the challenges that we have all faced as women, it's really brought out many of the vulnerabilities that we've been struggling with for a long time, and now those are at the forefront. However, we were really encouraged by our panelists to also see the opportunities at this time that have arisen out of the crisis, like, for example, using this time to align male investors back to women. The fact that women are funded less than men, the fact that we have fewer opportunities and economic access, right? It's brought to the forefront these issues, and we now have the opportunity to discuss them more openly. Stress has been one of the big points brought up during this panel. Stress at home, stress at work, and very importantly, mental health. Mental health is something that we're talking a lot more about today. I think it's really important. That's something the panelists were really passionate about. It's been really important and it was brought up today, to take care of yourself, have boundaries, manage your energy better. It is okay to say no. One of my favorite quotes from another Women in Cloud panel from Ellie Wu that comes to mind is, "No is a complete sentence." Such a good line in this context. Aligns very well with our power panel. And another really interesting point that was brought up is for women to have confidence in their experiences. And so a number of the panelists brought this up in a few different ways. A lot of women are dealing with choices around work-life balance, right? Even the question of, is work-life balance a thing? In the context of COVID, it sounds like it's not really so straightforward. And in the context of women who are working from home, if you are wanting to prioritize your family over your work, it's setting clear goals and timelines, and to have confidence in that, because the reality is we're in the midst of a crisis. And so we have to make choices and stick by those choices and have confidence in those choices, and to trust our intuition and to believe in ourselves. And so I want to thank everyone again for this great panel discussion, this power panel. What an amazing morning so far. What an incredible group of speakers. Such an honor and a privilege to be here with all of you again today. Thank you so much.